What is up, everyone? I'm Rusty, your local laboratory maniac, and this is Labman EDH. We're going to talk about 5 unique decks I actually own in paper. If you're looking for deck ideas or you're an EDH deck builder, go ahead, subscribe to my channel because I think it's been 3 months, I've already talked about over 50 decks. Now, let's go ahead and just jump into these decks. Now, these decks I have played in paper, they are really fun, and they're pretty powerful. This first deck is probably one of the more powerful ones on the list. It was based around a deck I played against in a friend group. They had a Selesnya deck with Maze of Ith as a central theme, and they would copy it and make it so only one creature can attack at a time. I believe they had Miri Weatherlight Duelist as a commander, and it was really interesting. So I wanted to make it my own. I chose different commanders and different colors, of course, but we'll get into that. So Maze of Ith has the ability to tap to untap target attacking creature, prevent all combat damage that will be dealt to and by that creature this turn. And then they'd copy it with stuff like Vesuva that ETBs as a copy of any land you control. Note, Maze of Ith is not legendary. Quick lore tidbit, you may not know this, but Ith comes from Lord of Ith, and he was a mage on the post Brother Wars Dominaria. He led a conclave of mages, but he was eventually trapped by an evil wizard called Mercil the Pretender. Now, Mercil siphoned his energy and slowly drove him mad over a 12-year period, but he was eventually freed by Joda. I didn't go the Selesnya route because I wanted a bunch of copying. For example, Doppelgang will be a great card because we're going to be mana ramping like crazy, so we can pay for it. It is an XXX green blue sorcery. For each of X target permanents, create X tokens that are copies of that permanent. So we're going to make a whole bunch of Maze of Iths. Or you can do something like Copy Land, which is actually a newer card, but it straight up comes in as a copy of that land in enchantment form, and it's only 3 mana. Okay, so Copy and Maze of Ith will be fun, and it'll control the board a lot. Your opponents aren't going to want to attack. However, I was wondering what other lands having multiple copies of would be good. Valakut is a great one, and it will end the game pretty quick. Now, it is not a legendary, surprisingly enough. It comes in tapped. When a mountain enters the battlefield, if you control 5 other mountains, Valakut deals 3 damage to target creature or player, and it taps for red. So if you have a couple of these, that'd be pretty good, but you're going to want to focus your deck building on having all your dual lands or as many dual lands as possible with the mountain subtype. Or you can do something like Realmbright, which I never really see play. It's a 1 blue creature of the Vulcan Wizard. When it comes into the battlefield, choose a basic land card type, and then lands you control are the chosen type in addition to their other types, and it's a 1/1. So it's almost like Prismatic Omen, but it's a card I don't really see played. Field of the Dead is a great include, but is a game changer if that is something you care about. Whenever it or a land enters the battlefield under your control, you get a 2/2 zombie if you have 7 or more lands with different names. And then there's something like Talon Gates Madara, which has an ETB which phases out a creature. So if you're copying this multiple times, you can phase out multiple creatures. Dark Depths isn't a card you normally want to make copies of because it's legendary, but I saw it once used with All Will Be One. So when Dark Depths enters, it enters with 10 counters on it. And All Will Be One is a 5 mana red enchantment that states if you have 1 or more counters put on anything, it deals that much damage to an opponent or a creature or planeswalker they control. So if you copy Dark Depths with All Will Be One a few times, like with Doppelgang, for example, you easily can take out a player doing 10, 20, 30 damage. And this combo actually taught me the power of Witchbane Orb, which is something I'll talk in a future deck. It gives us hexproof, and I actually was protected from this combo that they were using. Quick lore tidbit. Now, Merit Lodge was trapped deep within the Rondon Glacier on northern Tertiaire, which is on Dominaria, where the Brother War took place, which, by the way, I'll be making a lore video about here soon. Now, once the World Spell was cast, which ended the Ice Age, the glacier melted and flooded the continent. It is unknown what happened to Merit Lodge after. She can travel across planes, but is not a planeswalker and is not an Eldrazi, although people do have theories. She is made to be similar almost to Cthulhu. The flavor text for the original printing of The Wrath of Merit Laj read, Dread Merit Laj lies dreaming, not dead, which is similar to the Lovecraft's famous line, In his house of R'lyeh, dead Cthulhu waits dreaming. One fun play I like using in this deck that really makes your opponents think is Realms Uncharted. It's a 2 generic, 1 green instant. You search a library for 4 land cards with different names and reveal them. An opponent chooses 2 of those cards, puts the chosen cards into your graveyard, and put the rest into your hand, and then you shuffle your library. So, what you're going to want to do for the 4 lands, you want to get Echoing Deeps in Vesuva, and maybe 2 of your special lands like Maze of Ith or Field of the Dead or Valakut or whatever. And so they're essentially have no good choice because if they put Maze of Ith and Field of the Dead in the graveyard and then you get Vesuva and Echoing Deeps, you can Echoing Deeps one of them and the Vesuva one of your good lands anyway, and you get 2 good lands. Or if they give you Maze of Ith and Field of the Dead, you just get Maze of Ith and Field of the Dead, which is what you want anyway. So it's a really cool combo. And I remember someone saw me play this and they're like, okay, now I want to build this deck because of this combo, because it's almost like a competitive modern play. The commander I chose is Tago, and I also chose Kaidela as the partner, although I don't really care about the partner. I just wanted those green and blue colors because I want to copy and land ramp essentially. But Tago is really cool. He's Tago Goblin Weaponsmith. He's a 2 generic 1 red legendary creature, Goblin Artificer. When a land enters the battlefield under your control, you create a colorless equipment artifact token named Rock. And you can equip it for 1, and you can pay 1, tap it, sacrifice Rock. This creature deals 2 damage to any target. And Kaidel taps for mana for each card you drew each turn. That's not as important, of course. Now, and that's essentially the deck. You're going to be copying whatever lands. Maze of Ith is my favorite, but you might want Valakut. You might want Field of the Dead. You copy them as many times as possible, maximizing the benefit, and then hopefully throw a bunch of rocks at your opponent. I first got into this next deck by seeing Blood Reckoning. I was flipping through my common and uncommon binder and saw it. I kind of do that from time to time just to get some ideas for deck building. It is a 3 generic, 1 black enchantment. When a creature attacks you or a planeswalker you control, that creature's controller loses 1 life. So it drains them every time they attack you per creature. And there are a bunch of cards like this, and we'll go over them. But most are enchantments. So at first, I went with the Orzhov enchantment route. But then I switched to Isshin, and I thought, wait, Blood Reckoning is an attack trigger. And Isshin doesn't care who's attacking, just that you control the permanent that is triggering. So Isshin, 2 heavens as 1 is a red, white, black legendary creature, human samurai. If a creature attacking causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time, and it's a 3/4. Now, this is a really cool ability, and I figure the best offense is a great defense. This is a Pillowfort style Isshin deck, which, Isshin's obviously usually aggro because it wants you to be attacking. So we're definitely going against the grain here. Quick lore tidbit. Now, Ishin was actually a bodyguard for a statesman, but eventually, when the emperor left, he was dismissed. And he actually was wandering the countryside looking for jobs until he became a blacksmith. There, he learned of the Asari Uprisers, a group dedicated to overthrowing the Imperials and putting the government into the hands of the people, and now he fights alongside them. For the Blood Reckoning style effects, here's a few of them that I focused on this deck. You got Patron of the Kasune and Righteous Cause, which gave me 1 life when someone attacks. It doesn't matter who they're attacking. But Orm's Prayer gains me 1 life per creature when someone attacks me. Circle of Flame does 1 damage to non-flyers when they attack me. Marchesa's Decree, Hissing Miasma, and Blood Reckoning drain an opponent for 1 when they attack me. And then Revenge of the Ravens drains our opponents for 1 and gains us 1 when they attack me. So Ishin actually will make it so it doubles this because it doesn't care, again, who's attacking, just that they're attacking. The curses can be pretty great. Now, they are enchantments, which is good if you want an enchantment theme here, but they also incentivize others to attack your opponents. Now, Curse of Vitality, it gains you 2 life when they're attacked. Curse of Disturbance gets you a 2/2 Zombo. And then Curse of Opulence gains you gold. And this is doubled with Isshin for just for you and for your opponent. So, Curse of Vitality will gain you 2 life, but it'll gain you 4 with Isshin, but it'll also gain your opponent 4. So keep that in mind. So your opponent's getting double the benefit. The goad enchantments like Parasitic Impetus and Shiny Impetus are great because the Parasitic one drains and gains for 2 when they attack, and the Shiny one gives you a treasure when they attack, which is obviously doubled with your commander, but also goads your opponents, which you want them to attack, because not all your cards care if they're attacking you, it just cares that they're attacking. Boosting up your Isshin for Voltron damage is one of the main strategies of this deck as well to end games. Draining and gaining is great, but sometimes we got to beat face. Now, Brina the Demagogue is a 1 generic, 1 white, 1 black legendary creature, bird, warlock. As flying, whenever a player attacks one of your opponents, if the opponent had more life than another one of your opponents, the attacking player draws a card, and you get 2+1/+1 counters on a creature you control. This is great. It's going to boost your Isshin. It'll incentivize your opponents to attack, but also you can be the one attacking your opponent, so you can draw 2 and get 4+1/+1 counters if you have your Isshin out. And then you got Killith, Sunmane Familiar. It's a 1 generic, 1 white legendary creature horse. When a commander you control attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on it, and it's a 1/1. So it's just simple. You attack with your commander, and bang, bada, boom, it gets +2/+2. There are a lot of draw options in this deck, and you're going to, of course, want as many as you can. Here are 2. You got Caustic Bronco. It's a 1 generic, 1 black creature, snake, horse, mount. What a combo of creature types. Whenever it attacks, reveal the top card of your library and put it into your hand. You lose life equal to that card's mana value if it isn't saddled. Otherwise, each opponent loses that much life. It saddles for 3, and it's a 2/2. So every time it attacks, you will draw 2, reveal them, and your opponent will lose that much life. So it'll drain them and you draw. It's all upside as long as it's settled. And Karkazar, the Eye Tyrant, is probably one of the most brutal cards in this deck. I didn't know how brutal it would be until I played it. It's a 3 generic, a black, and a red legendary creature, Beholder. Whenever you attack a player, tap target creature that player controls and goad it. And then whenever an opponent attacks another one of your opponents, you and that attacking player each draw a card and lose 1 life, and it's a 5/5. So if you can tell your opponents, hey, if you attack your opponent to your left, you get to draw 2 and lose 2, and they're going to do it almost every time. And that's essentially the deck. You do a Pillowfort strategy with a goad sub theme, using Isshin to double any triggers to benefit, and then maybe drain your opponent until they lose, or do Voltron damage by boosting your commander with +1/+1 counters. This next deck I've played around with so much. I've been editing it like crazy over the last couple of years. It's around the secret commander Boobytrap. Boobytrap is a 6 generic artifact. As it comes into play, you name a card other than a basic land card and choose an opponent. The chosen player reveals each card he or she draws. And whenever the chosen player draws the named card, you sacrifice Boobytrap. If you do, Boobytrap deals 10 damage to that player. So this requires you to sacrifice it, and it is our secret commander. So bringing it back is going to be important. So Sharoom is the commander for this deck. It's a 3 generic white, blue, black legendary artifact creature Sphinx. As flying, and when it ETBs, you may return target artifact from your graveyard to the battlefield, and it's a 5/5. So you sacrifice your booby trap, and then you can play your commander, bringing it back, doing it all over again. Knowing the top card of our opponent's deck is obviously going to be a key strategy here. Lantern of Insight is the best of these abilities. There are 3 or 4 that you can use. Now, if you've ever played Modern, you know how Lantern of Insight works and how we can use it to the best of our advantage here. This is almost like a Lantern control deck with a booby trap deck all in one. Now, Lantern of Insight is a 1 generic artifact. Each player plays with the top card of his or her library revealed. You can tap it, sacrifice it, target player shuffles his or her library. And then you can do something like Field of Dreams or Wizened Snitches. It does the same thing, revealing the top card of your opponent's library. Now, I wish they had more blanket abilities like this in Magic. I think it's a cool strategy to play around with. There are cards that let you play with the top card of your opponent's libraries, like Architect of Wills has an ETB ability, and it's an artifact where you can look at the top three of target player's library and put them back in any order so you know exactly what they have. Then you play Booby Trap. Then you got Hinder and other effects like it where you can put things from the field or counter them, put them onto top of your opponent's library. There's actually like 10 cards that do that, so you can fill as many as you think you need. As I said, you modern players know where I'm going with this. You got Ghoul Caller's Bell and Codex Shredder. Each mill someone for one. Now, Ghoul Caller's Bell taps to mill each player for one. Codex Shredder targets a player, of course. And this is going to be really important. So, if your opponent has a card on top of their library you do not like, you can mill it so they can't get it. Plus, milling yourself is good. Remember, our commander can bring back any artifact, and these two both happen to be artifacts. Making token copies of Booby Trap to get more triggered abilities will be great. Esoteric Duplicator is the best way to do this. It lets you copy it when you sacrifice it. So it is a 2 generic, 1 blue artifact clue. Whenever you sacrifice this card or another artifact, you pay 2 generic. And if you do, at the beginning of your next in step, create a token that's a copy of that artifact. And then you can pay 2, sacrifice this artifact, draw a card. So you sacrifice your booby trap, you pay 2, you get a copy, and you just keep doing that, and it sacrifices itself, so it's going to be easy. Then you got World Waker Helm that lets you make maps when you make artifact tokens, but it also lets you copy your artifact tokens that you already have on the field, so you can keep copying your booby trap. Hopefully, get as many booby traps as you can. Tutoring will be very important for this deck. And it also have like a sub ETB theme in this deck as well, because we'll also have like Conjurer's Closet, for example. So Loyal Inventor is going to be great. It's a 2 generic, 1 blue creature, human artificer, as vigilance. And when it ETBs, you search your library for an artifact card, reveal it, then shuffle. You put that card in your hand. F it, you have an assassin. Otherwise, you put it on top of your library, and it's a 2/3. And then you got Disciple of Gix. It's a 4 generic, 2 black creature, Phyrexian human. When it enters the battlefield, search your library for up to 3 artifact cards. Put them into your graveyard and then shuffle, and it's a 4/4. So you are going to have a lot of recursion spells in this deck. Our commander is a recursion spell, so Disciple of Gix is going to be great, especially if we're looking for key pieces. I don't know if you're like me, but when building an artifact deck, you think of worst case scenarios, like someone mass exiling your board or mass destroying your artifacts. You can use something like Arcbound Ravager, which I have in this deck, where he will sacrifice an artifact to do something. There's a lot of cards that do that. That way, if they're trying to exile everything, you get them into your graveyard for use later. And of course, you want to use something like Brilliant Restoration, which is a mass recursion spell. It's a 3 generic 4 white sorcery. Return all artifact and enchantment cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. And that's just going to be great late game. If you're playing a game and you're like, what card do I want to draw? It's turn like 10 or 15. Someone's board wiped 5 times. What card are you wanting to draw? Usually a mass recursion spell. People do not play mass recursion spells enough. I always preach about it. Hopefully someone's listening. And that's essentially the deck. You know the top card of your opponent's library. You get out Booby Trap. You copy it as many times as you can. The achievement unlock situation would be to Booby Trap someone for 40 damage. And I have yet to do that. The max I've done is 20 damage. I'm still working on it, guys. I'm not giving up. This next deck is really epic. Now, I've played around with Epic a lot. I think it's a really cool mechanic to use and to build around because you have to be very creative. This one's going to be a 3-color deck, so we're going to have all 3 in here. The best one probably to get is Eternal Dominion. It's a 7 generic, 3 blue sorcery. Search target opponent's library for an artifact, creature, enchantment, or land card. Put it into play under your control, and then they shuffle. And then it has the Epic ability. Now, Epic says for the rest of the game, you can't play spells. And at the beginning of each of your upkeeps, copy this spell except for the Epic ability, and you may choose new targets for the copy. And then you got Endless Swarm. It's a 5 generic, 3 green sorcery. You put a 1/1 green snake creature token into play for each card in your hand, and it has Epic. Then you have Undying Flames. It's a 4 generic, 2 red sorcery. Remove cards from the top of your library from the game until you reveal a non land card. Undying Flame deals damage to target creature or player equal to that card's CMC, and it has Epic. So we're going to want to cast at least one of these, preferably two. And how you're going to do that, obviously, these are sorceries. So you want to give them flash with like something like Leyline of Anticipation. If you can get two of these off at once, you are more likely to win. Epic has a huge restriction, but they're so powerful. If you get Dominion out or Endless Swarm out, you're going to be made in the shade. Now, this is a mana intensive deck, and we're obviously going to be focusing on getting as much mana and using a lot of instant and sorcery cost reducers for this deck as well. Riku of Two Reflections is the commander for this deck. It's a 2 generic, a green, blue, and red. It is a legendary creature, human wizard. Whenever you cast an instant sorcery spell, you may pay a blue and a red, and if you do, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. That's the main ability we care about. But then it has whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, you can pay a green and a blue, and if you do, you create a token that's a copy of that creature. It's a 2/2, and that could become relevant. So we can easily copy our epic spells with our commander while they're on the stack. And if they're on the stack, we get that extra epic ability trigger later on. So we could get 2 Eternal Dominions or 2 Endless Swarms. And those abilities do happen during the upkeep. So before we play an epic spell, we might want to play something like Sphinx of the Second Sun, and that gets us multiple upkeeps. There's also Paradox Haze, and there's also what's it, Shadow of the Second Sun, I think. Don't quote me on that, but there's plenty you can use. You can put cards in here that care about each of the epic spells. For example, having no maximum hand size is going to be pretty cool with Endless Swarm because your swarm will only get bigger per turn. Thought Vessel and Reliquary Tower you all know about. But have you seen Praetor's Council played before? It's a 5 generic, 3 green sorcery. Return all cards from your graveyard to your hand. You exile Praetor's Council. You have no maximum hand size for the rest of the game. So it only not only increases your hand size, but it also makes it no max hand size. And this is going to get you huge swarms of snakes, and eventually you're just going to take out your opponents. You did it. You cast 2 epic spells all at once. You're getting those abilities every turn. But what else are you doing with all your mana? Well, there's a lot of abilities that you can play. You don't have to just cast spells. Now, channel abilities are a great example. You also got cycling abilities that when you cycle something, something happens. You got land abilities that turn into creatures or boost something when they're on the field. Or you got reinforce abilities that are discard abilities. There's just so many options that you could take. Colossal Sky Turtle is a great example. It is as a channel ability that says you pay 2 in a green, you discard it, return target card from your graveyard to your hand, or you can pay 1 in a blue, discard it, return target creature to its owner's hand. And it's a 6/5 with flying and war too. So it's a pretty big creature. If you late game you haven't cast your epic spells and you want to put it into play, and then you can copy it with your commander, of course. Then you got Hall of the Storm Giants. You can pay 5 in a blue. Until end of turn, it becomes a 7/7 blue giant creature with Ward 3. It's still land. And that's a huge beater while you're winning with your epic, while you're doing your epic abilities. You can use this to beat face. Like I said, you need flash, so Leyline Anticipation gives you flash. Also, you can play it turn 0 if it's in your opener. You also have Vidalcan Ori, you have Teferi. There's so many options for flash, especially in blue. And then you got cost reducers. There's a huge variety in blue and red. Is the Spellslinger deck color, so you're going to have plenty of options. If you have a couple out, that reduces if you're trying to cast 2 epic spells, that reduces each one, so it almost doubles your mana ramp. And that's how I like to think about it. Maybe that's just nerd math. I don't know. But that's essentially the deck. Try to cast 2 epic spells at once, minimize the downside by playing a lot of activated abilities instead. You're going to want to build your board before doing the epic abilities with something that doubles, like upkeeps, something that doubles triggered abilities, some stuff like that. And then bing bada boom, hopefully that downside won't really matter and the upside of those powerful abilities will be great. If you've watched any of my previous videos, you know I like horror. It's one of my hobbies. Phyrexians are horror. I don't care what anyone says. They're straight from a Hellraiser movie if you've seen those. And some of the Phyrexians, some of the best ones, are Praetors. They are leaders of the various factions. You had them in Old Phyrexia and New Phyrexia. Most are dead now, but I won't really get into the storyline. I'd have too much to say about it. Now, this deck is built around Realmbreaker, the Invasion Tree, which is a 3 generic legendary artifact. You pay to tap it, target opponent mills 3 cards, and then you put a land from their graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. And if it leaves, it goes to exile. Then you pay 10, tap it, sacrifice Realmbreaker, search your library for any number of Praetor cards, put them onto the battlefield, then shuffle. Now, this is a reference to the World Tree that did the same thing, but for gods. Praetors aren't gods, even though sometimes they probably think they are. But that's what this whole deck's about. I want to search this out, get up to 10 mana, tap it, and then put them all in play. I have 16. I have all 3 versions of the original ones, plus Gix. There are 2 others we can go over that are technically Praetors, but they have no ties to Phyrexia, so they're kind of lame. Quick lore tidbit. They did put some information into Realmbreaker. It's one of the new things. So Realmbreaker is a new Phyrexian invasion tree. It's an offspring of the World Tree, so it's not the same thing. At first I thought they just corrupted the World Tree. No, it's like the sun. Now, and it is a male for some reason. He has the potential to forcibly merge planes. He became the new partner for Rin after the death of Seven, and she refers to him as Eight. It has 3 barbed limbs, like all of its tree branches have 3 barbs that uncurl and attach to a plane to anchor itself. Instead of sap, it produces glistening oil. And Ren described its personality as nervous and compassionate, which is kind of weird if your whole programming is to spread Phyrexian. Maybe Phyrexians are just chill, nice, nervous, kind of awkward people, and we're just, we just have a stereotype of them. I don't think I really need to go over all the Praetors. I think they're well known in the Magic community, especially Commander. One thing I will say about this deck is if you use the Realm Breaker's ability, which I do, I've really never cast one with this deck. I've just used the Realm Breaker to get them all out at once. I try to shuffle them back into the deck so I can get them for later. And you basically win that turn because Urbrask is going to give them all haste. All your creatures are going to be boosted. All theirs is going to be reduced. All your mana is going to be doubled. All theirs gets tapped down. You double your counters. They can't have any. They half their counters, and the list goes on. Your hand. You draw 7 cards every turn. Their hand size is reduced to 0. You're essentially just going to win. So it's less oppressive than you would think. It's almost like getting the World Tree out and using its ability, you almost instantly just win. But it's also like an achievement unlock situation. I have 16 of them in this deck. I have all 3 copies of the original with Phyrexian, writing. And then I have Gix in there because he was one of the OGs. There are 2 others that I don't think they're connected with Phyrexia. It's more of that title. They just had Praetor as the title. I'll show you them real quick. The 2 Praetors I did not include in my deck are Ebon Praetor and Sanguine Praetor. From my understanding, no connection to Phyrexia. The Ebon Praetor is actually part of the Ebon Hand, which is a group that kind of like worships or is part of Tarak, that one guy that cares about discarding. And then Sanguine Praetor, from my understanding, he is a representation of the old gods of Ravnica. So nothing to do with Phyrexia, so I didn't include them. But you can, if you want, include them. They still apply to Realmbreaker. And another thing, if you want to put Realmbreaker in your deck and you don't want the Phyrexians, you can do something like uh, any card that turns all creatures in your deck into Praetors. So you can do that. As if I didn't go that route, but you could. Since we're 5 color, I put Essica, God of the Tree, as the commander, and she taps for mana. It makes it so legendary creatures tap for mana and have vigilance. And keep in mind, it's 10 mana and to tap that artifact to use its ability. So we want to mana ramp as fast as possible. This can help us do it. I normally do it on this side, but you can also use her Prismatic Bridge to cheat out Praetors slowly if they destroy your invasion tree. And I've put a lot of effort in building this deck to make it as Phyrexian as possible. I even have the Phyrexian basic lands. I actually got the secret layer of Dan Frazier's talismans, and they all look like they belong with Phyrexia. So I just tossed them in there. I really like the feel of this deck. This is a very functional deck. If you get that realm tree, invasion tree, I should say, out, you're bing bada boom, you're gonna win. But it's also super flavorful. And that's essentially the deck. You get Roundtree or Realmbreaker out, and then you just mana ramp until you can get all the Praetors out, and you basically win the game right then and there. Thank you so much for watching the full video. I love talking about my decks, just like I'm sure you do. So comment down below if you have a unique deck you want to talk about, or if you play any of these decks or want to build any of them. Did I leave out any cards you think I should put? Comment down below. Subscribe if you like deck building and lore videos, because I do those on the regular. And I'll see you guys in the next one.